It's still crazy to me that this is getting a remake, and it's almost been a month since this game got announced or revealed, whatever word you guys want to use. But this, for me, is one of the most shocking but worrying things of all time for me. My heart is full of excitement and fear every time I watch the RE4 remake trailer. I played OG RE4 again, and I wrote down every single note that I could write down about the game, and I hope to see or either change or add to the remake. I just want to address one thing that a lot of fans desperately want removed from the remake, and that is the QuickTime events. Resident Evil 4 was the beginning of QTEs in RE games, and it is a very polarizing feature. I know RE6 was the one game where it was absolute overkill, but when it comes to RE4, the QTEs make sense in the game, and the main thing they did was to keep you on your toes throughout the game. But it wasn't always the same thing over and over again. It was something completely different, and I loved the variety of QTEs we were able to get. Do I think they should remove the QTEs? Only some. I think they should definitely limit them. The Krauser knife fight is completely insane and very memorable because of the QTEs, because you are Leon in that fight and it felt very real. If you don't react in time as Leon, you're dead. Now, as for the others like the giant statue, you can cut that out. I don't have a problem with it, especially if the game has a more serious tone, which seems very obvious in Leon's case and the way the village carries itself. It better have some action sequences in it though. So now, let's start off from the beginning. The Ganados. They look like they have more variety to them and won't have much duplicates wandering around as the original did quite a bit, but there is one very underrated thing about them that we don't talk about too much. They can communicate with each other. In the very first village attack, I would love to see more communication with them and try to focus on cornering and trapping Leon more and more to make everything feel very tense throughout that attack. Dr. Salvador has a huge chance to be the most terrifying enemy in the entire game. And if they do decide to make him some sort of stalker in the game, I'm totally fine with it, but I want it to go somewhat a different route. You know how Nemesis in RE3 Remake drops things when you take him down? That's the kind of thing I want with Dr. Salvador. But he keeps coming back more ferocious and pissed off, something very similar to Jack Baker in RE7. And in Salvador's final form, we get that big ass Dr. Salvador we see in the Mercenaries in that Waterworld map, but we don't get to see that in the main story of OGR4, which that sucks. But I would love to see that form in the remake. It would be totally awesome to see an evolving stage with him each time you take him down, which leaves a question mark for the Big Cheese because I honestly would prefer the same role he had in the original. He pops up here and there to choke the shit out of Leon and is the final boss fight in the village. And putting the hat on him felt very, very cliche for Capcom standards. Now on the other hand, let's move on to Luis. I want to see more screen time of him, whether if it's a DLC or just being more involved in the main story, but more importantly, his charisma and the way he carries himself in the game is a must keep in the remake. That's the charm about Luis, and that's what makes him a very lovable character, and please Capcom, do not scrap anything about that side of him. And again, for a nice fan request, I would love to see a DLC about Luis being a scientist and experimenting with the Las Plagas parasites, but yeah, that's just me. Ashley needs to be expanded and not just be known as an escort. Her interactions with Leon should definitely be key in order for her to develop her character. An interesting thing that I noticed was after Luis's death in OGRE4, Leon and Ashley run by him, but no interaction or cutscene occurs when you go near Luis. So I would love more dialogue from her and dive deep into the character of her. Maybe she can share what she experienced before getting kidnapped, but only time will tell, and maybe even during her kidnapping. I really want to see more Ada involved in the main story more often and interact more with Leon to give Leon closure about what happened in Raccoon City. I heard Separate Ways is going to be expanded compared to the original, so I don't know if it will be a DLC or unlocked after beating the main story, and that also includes Assignment Ada. You guys have heard so many rumors about Krauser being cut or people denying it, but all in all, Krauser better not get cut, and no matter how many times I hear it, I don't think it's happening. I want an Operation Javier DLC solely for Krauser and Leon starting their rivalry and their partnership before the rivalry started. Jack has great potential to be the best villain character in the game, and Operation Javier will do so much justice for the casual fanbase that hasn't played or know about the Darkside Chronicles, because when they see him, they'll be like, who the fuck is this dude and how does Leon know him? I want to know. So reimagining those events would be great if Capcom did so. Another big question is how big of a role is Albert Wesker going to have in either the main story or separate ways. One thing I noticed is Wesker knew about Leon, but they never interacted with each other, and I would love to see it somehow in the remake, since they are both aware of each other. Because I'm curious, but how does Leon know about Wesker? In RE2, he is completely unaware about Wesker, and he probably wouldn't know about him during his time in the agency. Or he probably would. So my question is this. How does Leon know Ada survived in RE2? Was it the rumor of Ada working with Wesker, and how did Leon find out about Wesker? There's so much to answer because in the original game, Leon doesn't really react too much when Ada reveals herself. He only says this.
So it is true.
True? About what?
You, working with Wesker.
So that entire thing is a question, but then again, they can change things up about Ada and Leon since this is a different timeline, so the possibilities of the entire Wesker-Leon thing is up in the air right now. From how Capcom has so far revealed the Big Cheese and Sadler, I don't know how much of a role Salazar will have. I didn't really mind him in the original, but he did so many things that irritated and pissed you off, which I really like since that's what villains are supposed to do. So I don't know if he will be having a bigger role compared to the Big Cheese and Sadler, but again, we shall wait and see. I really want Sadler to not be overshadowed by Krauser in this game. Sadler had great potential, but he turned out, in my opinion, to be a very average villain in a good way, with a solidly decent boss fight. I want more involving him in the game rather than the files, but also having the files be a very key thing in the game, which I mean, that should be the case in every Resident Evil game. The atmosphere seems more creepier since everything goes dark and what it seems most part of the game. The castle from the trailer seems to be very reminiscent of the RE Village castle, taking the gothic route, and also the village, because the village in RE8 was by no means clean or well organized, I should say, compared to RE4 original. It was more scrappy and poor, and the remake seems to be going with that direction as well. In terms of the atmosphere, the big question for me is this. What is the island going to look like, and is it even going to make the game? I hope it stays because a lot of the best parts in that section happen in that game. From the regenerators, they better be fucking creepy in this game, by the way, Krauser, and some very good action sequences, and yeah, let's not forget about our boy Mike. I think you can all agree with me on this, but I need more backstory on the merchant as well. There's so many things I would love to know about him, give him a character very similar to the Duke, and expand the merchant and give him some really good history if he knows the village very well, since he seems to be a resident and he gets around very fast. Because we don't know who or what the merchant actually is, and same as the Duke. I also would love to see Paul Mercier VA the merchant once again as he did in the original, so he can pay homage to Nick Apostolides VAing Leon in the remake, like a passing the torch moment I could say. It would be very cool to see in my opinion. Nick, on the other hand, had me very skeptical about his performance in Infinite Darkness and worried as to how he would sound in RE4 Remake since we are comparing his performance to Paul Mercier's. And this has been a worrying thing for me for quite some time, but I think I'm figuring out what direction he is taking. I don't think he's going to try and recreate Paul's Leon. He's trying to perfect his own version of Leon, and I can 100% respect that. But hey, just know though, I want Paul or Matt back for Leon post RE6 because I don't know if Nick can pull off a 40-plus-year-old Leon. No disrespect, but I'm excited for Nick's performance as for every other voice actor in the game as well. Will this game be better than the original? In my opinion, no. RE4 is my favorite game of all time, and I don't think this game can replace that, but I still have great hope for this game. There's so many other things I haven't touched on, like the weapons, the El Thick Boy, the Garador, and the other great things about this game. I can't wait for this game, and I also hope the OG RE4 soundtrack is in the game as well. Also, a small thing I want to touch up on is the story and how everyone says it feels quote-unquote disconnected to the original Umbrella story. Well, not everything needs to connect to it, as this is kind of its standalone game that continued its storyline throughout other games like Resident Evil 5 and Resident Evil Damnation. I wouldn't necessarily say standalone game, I should definitely be saying the beginning of a new story. And if you lore whores out there that want to call this a side game, then by all means go ahead. The devs will probably be bored of the same old story as well, along with the same old fixed camera games as well. I mean, they literally said that, by the way, about the fixed camera, but I don't know about the story. I could totally be wrong or right about it. So if it can go deeper about the history of Las Plagas and expand upon its characters from the original, I would be extremely happy about it. One thing that was key in the reveal trailer was Leon passing out on the boat and experiencing the Las Plagas parasite take over his body. In one of the scrapped versions of RE4, which is known as RE3.5, we saw a very mysterious and awesome enemy known as the Hookman. Maybe we can play as Leon in the middle of his hallucinations and we can see the Hookman in the remake. It could be the most badass thing about the game if Capcom decides to go with that. Another thing that I would love to see is the 2004/2005 player models to be in the remake. Something very similar to what RE2 Remake did with its 1998 models. And also the OG costumes, including the RE2 Remake RPD outfit and Ada's Assignment Ada outfit, Ashley's white outfit, and the night outfit. The goofiness would be at its peak with it, especially with Leon's Italian gangster outfit going with that. I hope Mercenaries is amazing as well, and we can use characters like Wesker, Hunk, and Krauser because we know Leon and Ada will be there. And another character that I would love to see in the Mercenaries is Luis. For him to be a new character in the Mercenaries would be really awesome, and I think Capcom definitely fumbled that opportunity with the original since he has the classic Red 9, but again, I hope he is added in the remake Mercenaries. But yeah, man, that's a lot of final thoughts, but in overall, I'm excited for this game. I can't wait to pre-order it and play it the second it releases. This will be amazing, and I hope everyone else is excited for this game as well, but we still have a lot of time to wait because it comes out in March next year. But what are your guys' thoughts on Resident Evil 4 Remake? Are you excited, not excited? Will it be better or not better than the original? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you guys for watching this, and be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the channel if you are new. I hope you guys have yourselves a good day, a good night, and a good sleep. Take care, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace out, and much love.